Hello class, this video tutorial is just a set of 8 examples on rearranging the subject of a formula. In this set of examples, these are just very basic examples, just to give you more feel of what to do in certain situations. So here we go. So with these ones, we're going to make X the subject. Let's begin with the first set of 4. These are very plain and simple. Since we want X to be on its own, we have to remove this plus A, and to do that, we write minus A, like so. This cancels out the A, which leaves us with X on its own. And for this, we just write this as 3 minus A. And that there is where X is now the subject. Likewise with this one, since we have, well, this is almost just like a regular equation. Since we want X on its own, we write plus 2. And we do the same to the other side of the equation or the expression. So we get X equals B plus 2. Or we could write this as 2 plus B. Notice how in this example, both the 2 and the B are positive, so you can write it in either way. For this, I'd like to put the letter first when they are both positive. Okay, so moving on to the next. This one, this is 3 times x. So we can change this, so we get divide 3, divide 3. This cancels out the 3's, leaving with x on its own, and we write this as c over 3. And for this last one, we have x divided by d. So we multiply both sides by d. Let's write it like here. And this cancels out d, leaving us with x equals, this one must be written where it's the coefficient 2 times d. So x equals 2d. Okay, so these are very basic sets of examples. Let's move on to the next. Now, notice how it feels like it's different, but in reality, these are the exact same question. It's just that now be mindful of the order of whether x or the other expression comes first. So in this case, we still want x to be the subject, so we do subtract e since this e is positive. So we minus e. In this one, we write this as x equals 5 minus e. But for this one, if you did want to make e first, you can't do this as e minus 5. So these two expressions are not the same. In this one, e is positive, but in this one, e is negative. If you did want to rearrange this, it had to be negative e plus 5. Now these two are the same. But for this, I know I said in this example, try and keep the letter first. The only exception here is if the letter has a negative coefficient. So 5 minus e is more appropriate, but you can write it like this. And now this one is very particularly different. This 6 is positive, so we have to do minus 6. This leaves us with negative x equals f minus 6. In this case, we actually can't leave this as negative 1x. So we would have to divide by negative 1. So we're going to divide everything on the right-hand side by negative 1. This leaves us with x on its own. Now, you might be tempted to write it like this. Okay? However, a more correct way of doing this would be the following. What's actually happening when we divide everything by negative 1, you can actually divide each one by negative 1, like so. So this is going to be f divided by negative 1, which becomes negative f. Negative 6 divided by negative 1 becomes positive 6. So notice how the sign of this flips and the sign of the negative 6 becomes positive. So we should actually write this as 6 minus f. Now you'll see this happen quite frequently, especially in textbooks and the solutions. You'll notice that it's like f minus 6, and then the next line suddenly becomes 6 minus f. What has actually happened is there's a division by a negative 1 happening somewhere. Okay, so let's go on to the next one here. For this, you can actually do this in one go. So you could do this as divide g, like so. But this leaves us with negative x equals 4 minus g. Okay, however, okay, let's actually do that for this step. When we now divide by negative 1, these do not flip. That's a common mistake that students think. What you're mistakenly remember is dividing to the power of negative 1. That's not what's happening here. We're dividing by negative 1. When this happens with a fraction like so, we just simply leave it as negative 4 on g. So we put the negative in front of the fraction, and it's just the same fraction. Later, whenever you do see a negative in front of fraction like this, remember that it's actually negative times the numerator. It's much better to think of it that way. Okay, let's move on to this last example for this video. For this one, we can do this in 2 steps. We're going to multiply by x first. So by multiplying by x, it cancels out with this x. On the left-hand side, we are left with negative 7. H times x gives us hx. Now that we are at this step, we actually divide by h, leaving us with negative 7 on h equaling x, which we could write as x equals negative 7 on h. Okay, so I hope that's given you an insight into the basic ideas and all the different types of inverse operations that you might encounter. As we keep going forward, you're going to see just a variety of combinations of all of these. Okay, so hope to see you then, and best of luck.